Hello, Roftwood. It's me, Zombie GG with the Roftwood Coordination Center, proudly presenting you with another post-apocalyptic production I like to call an RCC Fireside Chat. This is the first part of my series with a player who's contributed heavily to Urban Dead both in-game and on the wiki, Johnny P. Baraga. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. 3, 2, 1. Welcome, Johnny P. Baraga, to my latest RCC Fireside Chat.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It's an honor to have you. I've heard a lot about you. I'm aware of a few of the contributions to the game. Like, just for the audience real quick, give like a quick summary of what you've done in Urban Dead.
What I have done so far. I started my career, my Urban Dead career, to say, I think 7 years ago in 2012 with the DEM. In the same period that I also devised the basic system of the Danger Center, which is still in the wiki and one of the things I'm most proud of, really.
What year do you think this was? Sorry to interrupt.
That was 2012.
2012, you begin your Urban Dead career, and you jump straight into the Department of Emergency Management Pro Survivor group?
Yeah, like most people, I think, I started on the Pro Survivor side. It's a fun side to play if you find a good group of people. And while there, I was first cadet in the academy, as the things in the DEM go, for the Malton Police Department, which was the more aggressive side of the DEM, I guess.
For a long time, I have wanted to do a DEM series. We won't make this entire episode about the DEM, but I would like whatever you can remember about like 2012 DEM. That would be wicked cool to hear. Like, what, to my understanding, it's the Malton Police Department, which you said are the more like gung-ho kind of aggressive group, and then there's the Malton Forensic something. I don't know. What are they about?
Let me just pull up the page real quick. It's the Malton Police Department, which is mostly their anti-zombie unit. It's the Malton Fire Department, which is a lot of the what you call infrastructure support. So if you need an overcated building to be an entry point, they will take an axe to it. If they find buildings that are undercated, they will of course barricade it up. And then you also have the Malton Forensics unit, which is mostly their necrotech division, and the Malton Marshals, which are the bounty hunters or the anti-PK unit, as well as the Malton Civil Defense unit, which is a bit of an overall group as far as I remember. I might be remembering that part wrong. I was never really in contact with them a lot as far as I remember. I was mostly, I'm gonna send you the link to an old page of mine, my old user page. It will show the last update before I switched sides, to say so. When I was back with Johnny Two Toes, my old account, he was an inspector with the Malton Police Department, and I was also an academy lieutenant and assistant instructor for the DEM as a whole, because their academy is a shared resource. So all new units, all new players rather, go through the academy.
What an interesting system. Sounds like the DEM covered pretty much all angles the Pro Survivor could be interested in playing.
They absolutely did, and it was one of their strengths, I feel, when the game was a lot more populated, because they had this very clear system and a very good coverage of all the foci you can have within the game. If you want to play PK Hunter, go with the Marshals. They had an expertise which I never truly mastered, in all fairness, in finding and successfully hunting player killers, and that was it's a very specific play style I've dabbled in over the years, but it's something you really have to love. It can be a very solo activity, and it can be very like avoiding large groups of people, for instance, and hiding in dark buildings and being ready to light up dark buildings at the right time. like really stalking your prey, which was always very impressive to me.
Yeah, it's fun hunting them, but it is different tactics for sure. Like, we have to like put our heads in weird places to. You kind of have to think like them, you know, like.
Yeah, and back in the day, it was like they had these bounty hunter boards, and there was like a PKer list, and things were a lot more.
What was that bounty hunter board called?
Oh God!
Everyone talks about that one.
Shit.
I know.
It's been a while. I also didn't
I don't know.
stay on the survivor side for very long because while I was in the DEM as an academy instructor and as a Malton Police Department inspector, I organized the 5th of November event of 2012.
Whoa, you organized the first one?
No, not the first one, not the first one. I think the last one actually, or one of the last ones, because that one, it was a special one and not all survivors involved appreciated my effort. I think I even pissed off most of the RRF while doing it because they were getting ready for a fight, and instead of us holding the Blackmore building, which is of course tradition, they poured in so many zombies into the Blackmore building before we even got there that it became very hard for us to clear it, let alone hold it. So it turned into this weird reverse siege where zombies held the building and we tried to take it.
I've never heard of such a thing. That's hilarious.
I'll see what I can
That's
find
so
about
good.
it.
A reverse siege. I'm reading it right now. What, 5th of November, hashtag 2012 on the UD wiki.
Yeah, it's an amazing page. It never really got finished, which I think is a pity, but I also don't feel like I should be the one to finish that page for the very simple reason.
Because there are other people involved, right?
Not just that. On the one hand, I organized it, and if everything had gone better, I probably would have finished the page. As it went, people on all sides of the conflict were rather disappointed in the immediate aftermath, up to the point where a lot of the PK Alliance, I think it was, or something along those lines, like declared a fatwa on us, or a crusade, or whatever you want to call it, and they decided, okay, we're gonna hunt everyone involved with this on the survivor side. And I was very much on the top of their list, which made life interesting for a while. Well, life quickly turned into me scarily trying to find, well, desperately trying to find revives, and often not finding them because most of the survivors of mine were like, yeah, you got us into this mess. We're reviving everyone else first.
Man, they like held you accountable for it.
Yeah, and for a part, I was. We had a couple of very ambitious goals, and if I recall correctly, if you ever talk to someone of the DEM, they still have access to their forums. They can dig probably up more than I can at this point. But the plan was to have the academy basically strafecade and repair the surrounding area, and use them basically as logistic support. So they would run revives to the people who needed them, and they would make sure that the repair costs wouldn't be like 50 or 60 AP at a go, because we had not a whole lot of people to work with, so we really needed to we had to distribute resources. If I'm looking back, the people I remember and that I see on here as well, like the DEM, of course, the Knights Templar, which are still an awesome group for the record, the Skynet Defense Network, which has gone silent ever since, along with the Army Control Corps, Fortress was there, DHPD was there, which are also awesome guys, and they've had their hands full for years now with the dead. Very good allies from us with the EBD. The Virtual Arms Regulars, which I can recommend any Survivor player who's ever walked this game, log in and get to the Birch. It's probably one of the most fun locations, and it's consistently been one of the most fun locations in the game ever since they were founded.
I don't know much about these guys. I see them on the group stats page. I always wondered what the hell is going on, but I don't want to get off topic. So just to recap real quick, 2012, you have a pro survivor dude who's hanging out with the Malton Police Department, which is like a subsection of the Department of Emergency Management. And then you organized the 5th of November in 2012, which is like, it's just like a super monumental anniversary of the 2006 Battle of Blackmore. So you like bring one of those battles back. and then it was like a reverse siege because like the zombies were actually just holding the Blackmore building with like an iron fist, and you guys had to like go in and just try to kill them out so you could even just capture the building.
Well, at some point I think we succeeded in emptying the building, but it never really lasted long. I mean, you've talked to Moloch of the and
Yeah.
just as they are now and as they've always been there, a heavy opponent. Along with the PKer support they got, that was pretty amazing. 1 second, please.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry for the delay.
It's all cool. I can just cut that part out.
Awesome.
So eventually you guys get control of Blackmore, but it's never for long. And then you weren't a team that was very deep, so you had to be super effective with your limited resources. So you used like the young recruits to
I think
logical or do logistical
yeah,
support.
that was the plan, but in the end we really had to commit every survivor we found into the Blackmore itself. And when you say you controlled the Blackmore building, in all fairness, we never had full control. I'm not even going to pretend even a part of that siege or anything was a success. In all fairness, and with all the respect I can get for the RRF, the PKers who were present and everything, they were prepared way better than us. And what's more important, they had a lot of people who were a lot more committed to it. We had a lot of survivor groups and separate survivors who were into the idea, but they never committed to the level that's necessary for a long drawn-out siege or for an event like this. We had a couple people, Charles Whipplebottom, great friend of mine back in the day, springs to mind, Rennes Zoderman of the Malton Emergency Medical Service, also with the DEM, jumps to mind. A lot of other people, of course, also.
One person I recognize still today is Flat Top Avenger. He's like #1 in the cited people list for the 2012 Battle of Blackmore. It's just cool to see some of these guys who've just been playing for so long still committed to the game.
Yeah, I'm going through the list, and there are a couple of people I recognize, but the thing back then was that I was trying to keep it together. And in the DEM as well, there were a couple of people really committed, but a lot of them went like, okay, this isn't working, I'm bugging out, or they were fading out of the game entirely at that point, and that really drains what you want to do.
Yeah, they just weren't committed. We call it like there's casual players and then there's like hardcore players. And people like phase in and out with their energy level. Sometimes they like play casually, sometimes they're not playing at all. They just go take a break, and then other times they're playing like all the time, putting tons of work in.
Yeah, I think the timing wasn't right, and also a lot of the survivor groups were doing their own thing, and it was really hard to get them on the same line. And the numbers speak for themselves. If I look at the page, I'm not sure how accurate this still is, but we got between 90 and 100 survivors at one point, and around 150 zombies were still in the area, combined with the PKers, who are of course very hard to count. It was an uphill battle from day one, basically.
That's, you know, I love it. Sometimes it's cooler when the story has a defeat ending. It has like a lingering energy, and it's like motivation to like for revenge and stuff like that. It's like a build up for a part 2 maybe.
Yeah, right now I can look back and it's with a bit of, you know, nostalgia and appreciate it for what it was. But even if you look at the talk page right now, there are things there that I said when I was a lot younger, a lot of drama, a lot of this, a lot of that, a lot of me making excuses as well. I'll be fairly honest for that, and it's one of those things that I wouldn't do today, and that I look back at and cringe a bit right now.
Dude, I'm totally guilty of putting some emotions on the wiki. I've talked about this on many of my series, one with Stellar, one with Bob, and one with Mullick. I mostly got really personal one time about the Courtly Library truce. I don't understand. It was just I got too into the RP or something. I thought that that building was off limits for everyone, but that was a can of worms, and eventually I just looked at it with an adult perspective, and it's just like, dude, freaking chill out.
Yeah, it's a game, and it's definitely back in 2012. I had a lot going on in real life, so I really went into Urban Dead and the wiki as my proxy, my way to cope with things. Nothing dramatic in real life, but just enough to like make this important to me. There is a very infamous bid, I think, for sysop or something, another position within the wiki itself, where I went for a bid and was like, yeah, I want to be sysop, I think it was, or something of the like, and that went dramatically. I mean, the one excuse I can make is that the people who were running the wiki mostly back then, it was a fairly toxic community at times. It was a very great community other times. It was fairly toxic sometimes, and I reacted to that basically with equal levels or higher levels of toxicity, and that's something I probably wouldn't do anymore. Also,
that self-awareness is really cool, man. Do not underappreciate that talent and gift.
Honest to God, I have to give credit to people like Charles Whipplebottom. As I said earlier, it pains me that he's no longer playing and that I can't get in touch with him anymore. But definitely people like Bob and Stellar, both of you whom you've already had on the show. Honest to God, they keep me in check a bit. Not by like calling me back, say like, hey, you can't do that. No, just by creating a group and an atmosphere where you know, like, we expect better now, and that's fine. If you make a mistake, that's fine. You can learn from it, and they're probably two of the best people around on this game and on the wiki for the past 2-3 years at least.
They're inspirational to me as far as how I treat the community. I definitely have come at both Stellar and Bob with some stinky emotions. Just that time the Scourge ran into Roftwood when I first got back in the game in 2017, and I don't know, it was probably like, I think it was like winter 2018. Scourge shows up and you guys just ate everything, killed everyone, and you had no respect for like the courtly truce at all. And
hey man, we didn't sign a damn truce, but we might.
I took it personally, and I went to like DMs on Bob and Stellar, and the way they reacted to me and the way that they helped me like cope with myself.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah,
this was amazing.
I have to call myself out on it because it's important for me. It was a big, profound moment for me, and going forward to the community. To me, they just like are pillars of chill. They have like, they give people respect, and it makes me want to also treat them with respect. It's weird. And because of their positions.
If you look at Bob's user page, you will see a quote from me from quite a while ago. I'm pulling it up right now, and it's something that locks in very good with what you're saying. It's basically the all caps, a couple lines down in his quotes or testimonials, and it's basically, stop being so nice, you likable bastard. And that was a joke, of course, but because we were basically being online friends at that point, and we were both working on the wiki and stuff. But he just took everything with stride so much that I just tried to get a rise out of him, like, oh, come on, show me your ugly side, Bob, be angry. And he said like, oh, thanks for this, and he said thanks always, and I'm sorry, like, dude, be angry. And I just finished it with, stop being so nice, you likable bastard. And I stand behind that statement to this day.
Yeah, it's nice. I don't know, I can get emotional for sure over weird things, but I've learned to definitely practice pausing when I'm agitated. That's a good little trick. But these days with the community, it seems there's no one's really toxic anymore, and it seems like no one even entertains that, like on the UD Wiki Discord.
I think Bob is one of the biggest reasons that's the case. He was a rising star in the wiki back in 2012, I think, and he never left, as far as I know, for a long period. So he was this continuous pillar, as you said, of calm, of like being reasonable, being helpful. He was involved with some of the biggest projects on there, like Project Welcome, Project Timeline, and especially Project Welcome was such a welcoming, warm, friendly way to bring people into the community that new people never had or very rarely, to be more accurate, had the impulse of being toxic. The first person they talked to on the wiki wasn't a toxic asshole correcting them anymore. It was Bob. You can be mad at Bob. Well, I tried, and it's hard to be mad at Bob.
He's definitely a gift to the community. I'm glad that we share that mutual appreciation. I want to move back to kind of your like history.
Yeah, sure.
So DEM, pretty cool. You spearheaded the 2012 Battle of Blackmore, and I know it kind of ended in tragedy, but sounds like it was an awesome event.
Looking back, it was, but at the time itself, as I said, it was very toxic afterwards, and it made me leave the DEM. I even joined the Philosoph Knights at some point.
Ooh, PK group,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a faux pas for me to talk about it like this, because the whole thing with the Philosoph Knights was that, like, yeah, there's the mystery of who's behind the kill. You never know whose alt this is, and I straight up joined with my former D.
So you weren't anonymous at all. You were very blatant about it.
Yeah, and I just went like, hey, if you can't beat him, join him, fuck it. But that didn't really last very long.
That's pretty badass, dude.
Yeah.
You're just like killing people without a mask on. That's so funny.
Oh, I wore the mask. I mean, it's part of the
well,
uniform.
like, yeah, but you know, like your name. Everyone
Yeah, I
knows
know.
your name. There's no masking that.
But that didn't last very long, and I faded actually pretty quickly afterwards. Something that happened before, I think in September of 2012, before the 5th of November, Baraga became reality. He was created by me as a new alt, with the very distinct purpose of joining the RRF, because out of curiosity, I think I joined their forums and was like, okay, this might be fun too. And this was the time, I know you talked with Moloch about this, this was a time when Irishman was Papa, and
Okay, so there wasn't a lot of forum use.
there wasn't a lot of forum use, but back then I was on IRC all the time.
Yeah, I was wicked IRC oriented.
And I was in that IRC vibe, so I totally didn't miss like the forums a lot. And I know that Irishman has a bad rep, but looking back and if judging by what I've heard from Moloch and other players at this point, especially from your series with him, he wasn't a bad papa per se. Like he went through the motions, he did the right things. The problem with Irishman, I think, is that he didn't do anything big or dramatic.
Nothing like noteworthy for the history books for the group.
Nothing that was like that stood out and made it his era. And that made it very hard for the RRF at one point to persist, because that's what they'd been thriving on. They will persist. Of course, they've always had
like some
presence.
big thing going on. Like it's always some kind of crazy tour, like mall thing.
If it wasn't a tour, they were dominating certain areas, and they did it with flair, and they did it with a narrative. It's true, you knew when the RRF was in the area. There was a time when I was in the DEM and we set up some safe houses, and I'm assuming these were some people of the Gore Corps, and they just tagged every building we were in. Like, I'm talking a dozen buildings or more, and they only tagged those buildings with like, the RRF is coming, run now because we're hungry, something along those lines. And that was amazing, because we're like, yeah, okay, some kid or some whatever, I mean, we're ready for this. And we were ready until they came, and then we're like, fucking hell, what is this?
Yeah.
And when we were, I mean, this was with the academy, so we were all like new players, new low levels, and we were just like
dominated.
Yeah, me and Charles, I think he was in charge of the academy at that point, and I was his assistant instructor, and we were just like trying to keep everyone together, trying to keep
morale up.
These people, morale is very important, especially with new players, because if their morale drops, they're leaving.
Yeah.
If my morale drops, I'm fucking off for a month, and I'll be back then.
Or like in the RC, we call it like, it's like season or whatever. It's like, oh man, we got like some crazy zombie hurricane season going on right now, and some people literally just log off for a month until they're like a few weeks. They'll come back in, be like, oh, is Roftwood like sunny yet? Everything's all lit up. It's like, nope, still dark, haunted. See you next season. Hello again, Roftwood. This concludes the first part of my discussion with a player who I have grown to respect for their mature perspectives, tactical insight, and overall contributions to Urban Dead both in-game and on the wiki, the Johnny P. Baraga. Be sure to stay tuned for part 2 coming soon. This RCC Fireside Chat is a post-apocalyptic production proudly presented to you by the Roftwood Coordination Center. I'm Zombie GG, and as always, Roftwood, the pleasure's been mine.